Hari Hari. Some time ago, actually it was several years ago, come to think of it, I went to pick up my wife from work, or from wherever, I think from work, from somewhere. Yeah, we were driving back home, and we came to a stoplight, and we were not too far from home actually. So we're sitting at the stoplight, and we were talking, saying something, and then out of nowhere, crash. We were hit from behind and were plowed into the car in front of us. And we were dazed. My head hit the headrest, so I was dazed. Turned to her, her head hit the headrest, she was dazed. But otherwise, we were fine. And shook our head, clear our head a bit. And we got out, and what had happened is a pickup truck had hit the car behind us. That car plowed into us, and we plowed into the car in front of us. Got out, saw that everyone was fine. The police came, the ambulance came, and one person had some neck injuries, so he was put into an ambulance and sent off. And we went to look at the damage of our car. Of course, the front was crushed in, the back was crushed in. And we dealt with the insurance and the this and the that and so many different things. Now, I say all that to say this, to come to the verse of today, which we're working on, which is chapter 2, text 20, wherein Krishna says, "For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. It has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. It is unborn, eternal, ever-existing, and primeval. It is not slain when the body is slain." And that's the phrase I really do like about that verse. It is not slain, the soul. We are not slain when our body is slain. What happens to our body does not happen to us. What happened to my car did not happen to me and my wife. We are separate from the car. This realization that we are a spirit soul is absolutely critical, very, very important. Krishna has not even begun to talk. Krishna does not say the word bhakti yoga until the 7th chapter. Krishna does not bring up anything about love until the 7th chapter. He uses many other words, but not bhakti. Krishna is 4 verses into his discussion on Bhagavad Gita. Just 4 verses. He's going to spend the next several verses, he has been spending these 4 verses, talking about this issue, this critically important issue. We are not our body. The entire first chapter, everything that's come before this particular verse, was Arjuna crying about the whole issue and setting the scene of Kurukshetra. Krishna does not talk about bhakti for another 7 chapters. Krishna is only 4 verses in, and for the next several verses, he's going to be talking about the importance of this principle. And the reason why is because when we have this identification that we are the body, we are seeing reality in 3 degrees. Our vision, our perspective is about 3 to 5, 6 degrees. That is the band. That is the tunnel, the narrowness of our perception of reality. With that narrow view of reality, how can we possibly come to explore the ocean of reality, particularly when it's involving bhakti or love? So the first thing we have to do is we have to expand our vision to include total reality. Total reality is the reality, the understanding that I am not the body. Not just reading it in the Bhagavad Gita and then believing it. Not intellectually. Perceiving reality. That perception means it's not 60 degrees of vision, it's 360 degrees of perception. Seeing reality all 360 degrees, up, down, in 3 dimensions, in full color. Seeing all of reality in that way, then we can begin to talk about love. Then we can begin to talk. We know what we're looking at. We know reality. Then when we can have questions, we know what the questions should actually even entail. we can ask, what is a butterfly? Having seen a butterfly, having seen total reality, three-dimensionally, in depth, in full color. Now we can begin to ask the right questions about love, about Krishna, about God. But if we're stuck with this identity that we are the body, that means we're seeing our perception of reality is the 6 degrees. Not 360, it's 6 degrees. It is so narrow. And that's what Krishna is talking about here. So now, how do we gain this 360-degree perception of reality? Up, down, three-dimensionally, in full color. How do we get that? How do we come to this understanding that when the body is slain, I am not slain? What happens to my material body, my material circumstances, it affects me, for sure. I must interact, absolutely. But I am still separate from. How do we gain that 360-degree understanding of total reality? Actually, I'm laughing because the answer is an answer you're not going to like. You're not going to like it. When I was young, I enjoyed playing mridanga. And I first encountered a mridanga. I picked it up. I was very, very young. I started banging away on it and got relatively good at it and was in Gurukul and I was playing mridanga. But when I got a little bit older and I went to the Mayapur Gurukula, there was the first time I had encountered what the Mayapur Gurukul had, a classical, traditional mridanga teacher, player. And he was teaching a mridanga class. So I thought I was hot stuff. I signed up for the mridanga class and sat down. Oh, I know how to play mridanga. Really? Show me what you can do. Went off and did my... Very nice Mahavishnu. Vyasadeva. My name was Vyasadeva back then. Very nice Vyasadeva. Here. Take this wooden mridanga. What am I doing with a wooden mridanga? I was so excited to have a mridanga teacher, mridanga class. I was in America. I grew up playing mridanga or trying to play mridanga on fiberglass. I was like, wow, clay mridanga with the leather. And I was overwhelmed. I was ready to get involved in playing mridanga. Mahavishnu, you can no longer use this mridanga. From now on, you only play this block of wood. It was a wood shaped as a mridanga. And all students had that. So I had this wooden mridanga. And he says, okay, this is your mantra. Tere. Excuse me. Tere Kheta. The reason why I'm laughing is those of you who have learned mridanga traditionally, you know exactly where I'm going with this. So he gave me this Tere Kheta. So he showed me, you hit it like this, hit it like this, hit it like, go take that and do that. I mastered it within the first 10 minutes. I mean, anyone can. It's not about me. I'm not that great a mridanga player. Anyone can master Tere Kheta. Tere Kheta, 10 minutes, mastered it. Tere Kheta. I could play Tere Kheta, Tere Kheta. So, okay, very good. He told me, you go and you practice. So I took this wooden mridanga. Tere Kheta, Tere Kheta, Tere Kheta, Tere Kheta. Came back and next week, Mahashai. I learned Tere Kheta. Really, play it with me. I played Tere Kheta. He played Tere Kheta. Much faster. For much longer. Go, practice some more. When you can keep up with me, come back. 2 weeks later. Mahashai. Wooden mridanga. Tere Kheta, Tere Kheta. I couldn't keep up with him, but at least I could sustain Tere Kheta in a rhythm for a sustained period of time. Okay, you ready for your next mantra? Yes, for crying out loud. Mahashai, please. Okay. Tere Kheta, Tere Kheta. What? Tere Kheta, Tere Kheta. Mahashai, please. Go away. I took this bloody wooden thing. Tere Kheta, course. One lesson, I could play Tere Kheta, Tere Kheta. 2-3 weeks, I could play it at speed, at rhythm with Mahashai for a sustain. Not as fast, not nearly as long, for sure. But I could sustain it for a good pace, good period of time. 2 months into the class. Mahashai, I'm ready. Okay, yes, you're ready. My fellow Mridanga players are laughing their heads off. I know you are. Because you've been through this. Mahashai, my third mantra. Okay. Tere, Kheta. Tere, Kheta. Tere, 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 Kheta. Oh, good Lord in heaven. Oh, good Lord in heaven. 3 weeks later, come back, and this goes on. Grew into it. Years later, now I'm not that 10, 11-year-old boy. I'm now 17 years old. I'm playing Mridanga in the temple for Gaur Purnima. All the playing Mridanga. Me and all of us, my friends are all playing Mridanga. And then the devotees come and they say, wow, you can play Mridanga. I go back to the Gurukula. 12 devotees walk in. Mahavishnu, we saw you play Mridanga. Can you teach us how to play Mridanga? Now, of course, I'm a knucklehead. So I'm completely overwhelmed. My ego is flattered that they want to learn to play Mridanga from me. So I sit them down. Now, I'm a knucklehead. But I do know enough to teach the way I had learned, right? You're impressed with my Mridanga play. This is how I learned. Sat them all down, all 12 of them. Gave them a wooden Mridanga. Tere, Kheta. 3 days later, I had one. Good Lord. 3 days later, I had one student. Now, of course, I'm a terrible teacher, so that's not the point. Oh, good Lord in heaven. So over the years, I've learned. I mean, and I am not an exceptional Mridanga player. I am not. Everyone's seen many incredibly exceptional Mridanga players out there. I'm not. I'm average at best. The point I'm trying to, and over the years, people would come to me and say, Mahavishnu, I saw you play Mridanga, and can you please teach me how to play? I want to play Mridanga. And I think in my mind, now that, I'm no longer 17, I think, no, you don't. I mean, in my mind, I don't say it, no, you don't. Yes, you want to play Mridanga the way I play Mridanga. You don't want to do what I had to do to get there. You just don't. Because they would come to me. I'm back when I was living in Europe. I was living in Europe for a time. The devotees there or here in the United States, they come, teach me how to play. But then they had cottoned on, right? The secret was out. They knew when they come, I want to learn how to play Mridanga, but I don't want to learn Tere, Kheta. I don't want to learn Tere, Kheta. I want to learn how to play Mridanga. I don't want to learn Tere, Kheta. Teach me the other stuff. I'm like, well, dude. So I said, I don't teach how to play Mridanga, and I write out the number of someone who can know how to teach persons to play Mridanga, and I send them off to because it's not them, it's me. I'm not a Mridanga teacher. But they would come and say, not Tere, Kheta. So we want to know, how can we gain this 360-degree perception of reality? We want to know, how can we gain three-dimensional view or perception of reality? We want to know, how can we see total reality in full color with all its shapes, sizes, sounds? How can we come to the realization we're not this body and live on that level? But we don't want to learn Tere, Kheta. And that's the answer. This is a discussion. Now I'm going to say the answer is Tere, Kheta. So those are the one or two of you who are still watching. The rest have gone. The one or two of you who are still watching, the answer is sadhana. That's the answer. No one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear sadhana. No one wants to hear Tere, Kheta. In effect, we should stop the video now and everyone knows what to do. Everyone knows sadhana. Everyone knows that they have to engage in sadhana. We all know this. There is mechanical sadhana, then there is intentional sadhana. Mechanical sadhana is, and it's not about quantity, right? You can get up 4 o'clock in the morning and do sadhana from 4 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock, Mangalarti, the whole thing. Or your sadhana can be 5 minutes in the morning chanting one round your Gayatri. It's not about the 5 minutes or the 5 hours. It's about whether your sadhana is mechanical or intentional. That is the difference. That is the key. Mechanical sadhana is you've had a long day at work, taking care of things, dealing with issues, chasing foolishness, solving all kinds of other people's problems, foolishness. You're tired, you're exhausted. Finally, you're home, you've taken a shower, you want to sit down, you've got your cup of tea, and you're ready to just relax and put a stressful, tiring day behind you. In walks your knuckleheaded husband. And he wants to talk about Manchester United. Right? And you sit there and you watch this moron of your life, the man of your dreams, going on about Manchester United and Liverpool, and your eyes glaze over, right? And but your eyes glaze over, but you do all the right things, right? You sit there, really, you do all the eyebrows, really, right? Oh, wow, they wear red. Oh, I see. Why they did a tactic like that? Oh, they play on artificial grass. And you make all the sounds. You do the whole eyebrow. The eyebrows are going at full time, but you are completely thinking something else. You're somewhere else, and you're just waiting for this torturous conversation to end. But you carry on with it because this is the love of your life. Moron though he may be. He's the love of your life. She's the love of your life. So, and you have that much of an appreciation of your spouse that you at least you do the eyebrow bit and you make the noises. That's mechanical. A mechanical conversation, mechanical engagement. Even though he walks away, she walks away, at least feeling like they got something off their chest, they were to express something, you made all the right sounds, and they may go away somewhat mollified. But then what happens is, 40 years later, you're on the phone to the Grihastha Vision team saying, Prabhu, my marriage is unsatisfactory, what do I do? My marriage is unfulfilled, what do I do? I've been married for 40 years. What do I do? This is not hyperbole. We do it all the time, not only with our marriages and with our relationships, but with our spiritual life, right? We get excited. We go to Mayapur for the Mayapur festival. We see all the wonderful sannyasis, jumping in the air, dancing. Some sannyasi, our guru, gives a powerful, uplifting lecture. And then we raise our hand in the question and answer section. And we say, Maharaj, Prabhu, Mataji, I have a question. Why is it I have been 40 years chanting Hare Krishna and I have no enthusiasm? There's been no difference. We've been chanting japa, we've been engaged in sadhana with our eyes glazed over, doing the eyebrows and making the noises. But it wasn't intentional. And then we want to ask the question, well, Mahavishnu, how do I get this 360-degree view of reality? How do I get this view of reality in three-dimensional, in full color? But yet when it's time to do, first of all, you don't want to hear, or we, not you, we, myself included, we don't want to hear Tere, Kheta, Tere, Tere, Kheta. We don't want to hear sadhana. We don't want to hear intentional sadhana, not mechanical. I'm not saying, and this is very important, I'm not saying mechanical sadhana isn't important. It is absolutely important. In fact, prapya punya, prapya, that's an inside joke, I'm sorry. My sister, her name's Prapti, so whenever I would quote this verse, I'd tease her. Anyways, that's not the point. Chapter 6, text 41. Prapya punya kritam lokam ushitva shashvati sama. Krishna says, the unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, takes birth in a family of pious people or into a family of rich aristocracy, so that they can begin again the practice of devotional service, the sadhana. That's the guarantee of mechanical sadhana. That's the benefit of mechanical sadhana, is that it always gives us the opportunity to be engaged in mechanical sadhana. The opportunity is not taken away from us to get it right. We're always allowed in Mridanga class, let's put it that way. That's what mechanical sadhana does. It makes sure we're always able, we always have access to Mridanga class, and our teacher is a qualified teacher. That's what mechanical sadhana does. But if we don't play Tere Kheta on a wooden Mridanga, we can have all the access to the Mridanga class, we can have access to Mahashai, a Mridanga teacher, qualified Mridanga teacher, and still get nowhere. But we will always have access. So mechanical sadhana is absolutely important, beneficial, necessary, critical. Otherwise, there's no access to sadhana. No access the secret is we don't have a human body. We're in a material body, and we don't have access to sadhana. We don't have the capacity to engage even in mechanical sadhana, right? Those of us who, if you have a pet, your dog does not engage in sadhana. It may sit with you and hear, but it doesn't actively engage in sadhana, right? That's the guarantee of mechanical sadhana. Always have access to sadhana and Mahashai, qualified spiritual master, instruction. What is intentional sadhana? There was Krishna, pardon me. Krishna would go to the forest every morning, Krishna and Balaram, after breakfast. They would go to all the cowherd boys would come to Krishna and Balaram's house when they were children, and, pardon me, and they would take the calves to the forest. The men, they would take the cows and they would take care of the cows, and the boys, Krishna and Balaram and all the cowherd boys in their family, would take care of the calves. So after breakfast, Krishna and Balaram, they would take the calves with the other boys, and they would all go to the Yamuna for a day of fun at the Yamuna. And Mother Yashoda and their parents, their mothers, would give them their tiffin, tiffin, good Lord, lunch bag, their lunch to have at the Yamuna. Pardon me. So the boys would go, and they would go to the Yamuna like this with all the calves, with their little tiffin, their little lunch, and they would go. One Brahmin would watch this. He was a devotee of Krishna. He loved watching the boys and Krishna go from home with the cows to the Yamuna, and he was in complete ecstasy like this. And he was thinking, I want to do something for Krishna and Balaram. They have I'm sure Mother Yashoda and the mothers, they give them wonderful things to eat, but I can give them something. Maybe I'll make some sweet for them to have for dessert after their picnic lunch. That's what I'll do. So he went home, and he has a cow at home, and he went to milk his cow. Those of you know, when you go to milk a cow, those of you had the benefit of learning how to milk a cow by hand. And traditionally, you go to the cow, you look at the cow, eye to eye, face to face, before you do anything else, and you greet the cow, you look at her face to face, you touch her, you pet her, and that releases her positive hormones and feelings, and that all goes into the milk. So you have the very best milk. Those of you who are vegan, perfectly fine. But this is how we learn to milk the cow, right? So that's when he went home and he saw his cow. He looked into her eyes lovingly. He petted her, massaged her, took the best of her loving milk, and he put the milk into a pot, and he began to cook rabri. Rabri is a preparation wherein you cook it in such a way where you allow the milk to go up the sides of the pot, and the heat then draws out the moisture, and you're left with this very nice sweet cream. And you put some sugar in there, and the sweet cream thick. If you haven't, this is supposed to be a Bhagavad Gita class, and I'm talking about car crashes, rabri, and mridanga. Bear with me. But if you've never had rabri, your life is wasted. It is actually, I take that back because my wife can't. Davy can't stand rubbery. That's beside the point. If you haven't had rubbery, don't tell my wife. your life is wasted. So it's this rich, creamy, sweet. Oh, good Lord in heaven! But it's very, very difficult. It's not, you can't, the milk cannot boil because otherwise it'll burn the rubbery on the sides. So it cannot be burnt, but you're diluting the milk, and then you have the rubbery on the side, and it's nice and creamy milk, and it's just fantastic. So he's done this, and he's, but it's piping hot. So he's thinking, I cannot serve this piping hot rubbery. And he looks outside, and the sun, it's high noon, so the boys have likely finished taking their lunch meal, and it's time for the dessert. So this Brahman's becoming a little anxious. So he takes the rubbery off the stove, and he's fanning it, trying to cool down the rubbery. And time is passing. He wants to get it to them very quickly. He's fanning, and he sees that it's not, but he wants to see how hot it is. So he puts his finger in the rubbery, and it burns his finger. And that's when he comes out of his meditation. He comes out of his meditation. He is sitting, not at home. He doesn't have a home. He's homeless. He's sitting in an open field. He has no cow. He is a dirt poor Brahmin. He has literally nothing. He looks at his finger, and his finger is burned. That is intentional sadhana. That is intentional sadhana. There was no cow. There was no, he was not in Goloka Vrindavan. He was in an empty field. There was no one around him. There was no Krishna, there was no Balaram. He wasn't even in Vrindavan. There's no rubbery. There's no fire. There's no home in which he's doing this. There's no kitchen. His finger's burned. That is intentional sadhana. So the question is, how do we get intentional sadhana? Remember our knuckle-headed husband, spouse? How do we go from nodding, eyebrows, making the noise, but our mind is somewhere else, to being intentionally engaged in the conversation with the love of our life, our spouse? Even though we're exhausted, we want to sleep, we want to drink our tea and our hot milk and just be done with the day. We've been working hard all day. How do we engage in an intentional conversation with our spouse, with the love of our life? And he going on about Manchester United. How do we do it? Really, Manchester United, you get involved in the conversation. Why are they rivals of Liverpool? Why is artificial turf different from grass turf? Does it make a difference? What difference does it make? Oh, injuries. Oh, the ball moves. Really? That's interesting. Why will they both wear red? What's the difference? Why don't they choose a different color? Get intentionally involved in the conversation. Then, what happens is, 40 years later, you're not on the phone to the Grihastha Vision team complaining about the quality of your marriage. Rather, 40 years later, you're still madly in love with the love of your life. There it is. Choice. That's the difference between a conversation with eyes glazed over, eyebrows going, noises making, and intentionally getting involved in the conversation and hearing, learning, emotionally connected with your spouse in that conversation. The difference from there to there is choice, nothing else. It's choice. There's no secret, there's no great revelation here. Choice. So your intentional sadhana will be when one morning you're getting up, you had your shower, whatever, you turned on the Prabhupada chanting tape or the Shanai, whatever it is, you lit some candles on your altar, you've put in the incense, you've got your bead bag, and you're going to sit down for 5 minutes of your sadhana, 5 minutes of chanting, and there's a knock on the door. You go to the door, you open the door. Standing at your door is Radha and Krishna. Krishna's laughing, snickering. Radha is trying to get him to be quiet. And she says, oh, my dear Mahavishnu, we were walking past, Krishna and I were walking past. We saw through your window that you were getting ready to sit down and chant japa. Can we come and chant with you? Sure, come on in. And the three of you sit down and chant japa together. That is intentional sadhana. That is 360 degree. That gives us the capacity to see total reality in 360 degrees, in 3 dimensions, and in full color. Hari Hari.